Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and as always on my website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy show. Today we have a neighbor of mine. It's so funny. We get connected, have them on a podcast, and I don't really know where they live until we get on. And sometimes they're right here in Utah. Good old state of Utah creates a lot of successful entrepreneurs. So today we have Cody Hofhine, and he's been in the Inc. 5000 business owners multiple times, a founder of Real Estate Freedom Formula, and co-founder of Utah Sell Now. So he's just a giant in the real estate space. He's worked with a lot of big name people. Robert Kiyosaki, love the guy. I've never met him, but I've played his games, read his books since before I was born. So, been a fan of his for a long time. Worked with a lot of higher level people that you may think, how do you even get a contact with these people? You've only seen their books. You've only seen them on social media. You've only seen them these places. Well, Cody Hofhine has been able to actually interact and work with them. And so we're excited to have him on here, and he just coaches people on doing what he's done. He found success, and now he's sharing it with other people. That's why he's here. And we're going to have him share his story of how he got to where he is, because he looks younger than I am. I don't know how old he is, but maybe it's
37, man, 37.
Oh, okay. He's not.
My gut tells me I'm older.
Yeah, he's 10 years older than me, but he does not look. You got to go watch the YouTube video of this, because he does not look that much older. That's good. He must take care of himself. Another good trait. Cool deal. Well, hey, yeah, Cody, go ahead and share with us how you got into real estate, how you got into this game of coaching, personal development, and why you're so passionate about sharing it with others.
I love it. These are great questions, and it starts back probably prior. It goes back to just my whole entire upbringing. Like growing up, I always just did construction. So it didn't even dawn on me at an early age that I was going to get into real estate. It kind of just trended that way. So I'll kind of take it back a little bit. I used to work for my dad doing construction. And so here in Utah, the RC Willie's, that was his main account. He's the one that built those stores. And we'd go out of state and we'd build the stores in Reno and Summerlin and Boise and Sacramento. We built all these stores. And it was exciting doing it. I got to work with people that I loved every single day. I worked with my dad. I worked with my brother. He had a small crew. And so come 2008, I'm still doing this. And everyone knows what happens in 2008, 2009 is the construction market came to a halt. And RC Willey is a company that's owned by Warren Buffett. And that was something that the guy's brilliant. He knows what to do and when to do it. So during a recession, he doesn't do any remodels on his buildings. What he does is he boosts his advertising. And so yay for advertising, but oh no, because we were the people doing the remodels. We had nothing, and he wasn't investing any money in remodels during that time. So my dad and mom, they're so kind. They would always still cut me a paycheck, even though work wasn't coming in. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't allow them to do it. I couldn't allow them to see their bank account going down while I'm just maintaining. I'm not even working for it. And they'd be like, hey, why don't you come out to my house and help me do this? I'm like, I can do that as a son. I don't need to do that as an paid employee to do this. And so I ultimately had to have the hard conversation with my parents saying, I love you guys. You guys know that I'm doing this to help you guys. It's not that I want to leave. It's just I can't have you guys keep paying me. So I went and found a job selling vinyl fencing, of all things, for a company called Best Vinyl. And that's where I learned sales, fell in love with sales. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to do this. But quickly within that year, man, we were working hard. You're up at 8 a.m. and you're not home till 9 p.m. for 6 months of the year. And so the only time I got to see my kids was Saturday and Sunday. And so even though it was good money, I didn't like the quality of life. It wasn't worth it to me. I hated that I didn't see my kids wake up, and I hated that when I got home, they were already in bed for 5 of the days of the week. And that just hurt me. So coincidentally, throughout this time, I sold a ton of fencing to insurance agents of all things. And they're like, why do you sell a fence that you can only sell once when you could sell a policy and get these like residual, this renewal? And I'm like, let's do it. Like, this sounds awesome. So in 2010 is when I started for vinyl fencing. By the end of that year, I'm going into selling insurance and I'm starting up my own agency. And so I go into this thinking, man, this is going to be awesome. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to kill it. I'm going to do good things. There's going to be this residual. Well, I didn't have any mentors or anything like that. I just went out there and hustle, grind, and just pound doors. I'd literally go knocking doors saying, hey, I'd love to quote your insurance, like crazy stuff that no one does. And I got policies, but at the end of year one, I made $19,000 after 365 days. I had 2 kids at the time, my wife, a mortgage. Thank goodness we were smart enough to get out of debt, and we were good stewards with our money. We didn't live an insane life or try to keep up the Joneses. Our cars were paid off. I did have a 4-wheeler. We had a trailer, but those were paid off. Those weren't things that we had mortgage or any payments on. But 19 grand doesn't cut it. It doesn't cut it even if you didn't have a mortgage. 19 grand's tough. Like, that is tough. So you're in the finance space. You're looking at this like, how in the crap did you do it? Well, here's where the interesting story starts to take place. So I had an individual that was in our neighborhood, and the dad of this family that we became like great friends with, he would always come by our house and he'd bring like cookies, he'd bring like shakes, and we never like claimed poverty. We never had sad faces. We never walked around like, whoa, sad me. Like, we were happy people. Like, it's going to work. Don't worry about it. We're just going to keep growing. And this individual somehow knew, because when he would leave, he's like, hey, I was thinking about you guys. We made some cookies. And he'd walk off the porch. And at the bottom of those plates, there'd be like $500 taped to it. Or at the bottom of the cups of shakes, there'd be a couple $100. And he would just coincidentally just walk out. And the guy, I find out, makes over $500,000, lives in our neighborhood, and does really well, but he finds a way to always give back. He found a way to always, how do I help individuals? He didn't look at it as his big win was for him and his family to have this huge win. He shared it. And he taught me that principle early in my marriage that, oh my gosh, like, here's a principle I want to commit to and make sure I do. But you have to commit when you don't have it. So many times we think money changes things. You're going to make this money and all of a sudden we're going to learn instantly overnight, like, oh, I can now give money to people. No, it doesn't work that way. It's just like a muscle going to the gym. You've got to work it out, and you've got to work it out for a long time. And you've got to work that muscle when you don't have money. It doesn't just magically, all of a sudden you make money, all of a sudden you're financial literate. It's like, my literacy, it just came in. I understand how to do this and live a budget. No, actually, that's why most people fail. You've got Sports Illustrated saying, 2009, saying that the average income is $1 million a year. The average lifespan of a football player is a little over 3 years, so it's 3.3 years. But within a couple years of retirement, over 70% are in financial distress or bankruptcy. Like, that is the most crazy thing. Was money the problem? No, they made plenty of it. They just didn't have the literacy to know how to keep it. So we wanted to learn at a pivotal time when we had no money from this individual. We're so grateful for him that, hey, give back now. So we were always tithe payers. We always were like attendants of our church group, and we always gave 10% tithing, things that we just believed in just personally with our own faith. But then ultimately we'd try and do whatever we could over and above that. And it hurt. Like, it was a sacrifice. And sacrifice, man, it's like give till it hurts. So we'd do that, and we'd see these little opportunities come in, these little doors open, and it'd come back almost tenfold. So we lived this principle, and we committed to each other, me and my wife. We committed to God. We're like, we're going to keep doing this, live this principle while we don't have anything. And we committed that, hey, any success that comes in, we're going to use it to bless other people's lives. And we stayed true to this principle every single day. That's just something we live by, but we were taught by this individual's example. And so we didn't have a lot of money coming in, but it opened doors to insuring real estate investors. And I ended up growing the largest agency in the state of Utah for insuring investors. And what's interesting is I'd go to these real estate investor associations, and I'd go to them for just selfish purposes. I literally would go out there just to find the next policy. But 2015, something changed. I came home early from work, and I go inside. I'm getting ready to surprise my wife that I came home early, that I'm not working late tonight. And the surprise is mine. My wife is at the dinner table and she's crying. And it's not like a soft cry. Like it's like full on raccoon eyes, mascara going down her face. And so I go over to her, I'm like, Wendy, what's going on? And she looks up. She's like, Cody, I still don't know how we're going to pay our mortgage this month. I don't know how we're going to put food on the table. Like, we're out of money. We don't have any money. And I just remember sitting there as a dad, as a husband, just feeling like a failure. She didn't make me feel that way, by the way. It was all me. Like, I owned up to this. Like, it's me that needs to provide and I'm not providing. And it was like on the way home, what's funny is on the way before I get to see my wife crying, I'm listening to Tony Robbins. And he's like, if you want life to change, it's you that has to change. If you want life to get better, it's you that has to get better. Who's with me? Say I. And I just remember like getting pumped up about this. Then I come home to my wife crying. But those words stayed with me. And I just sat there. I'm like, Cody, if you want life to get better, it's you that has to get better. If you want life to change, it's you that has to change. So the next day I was going to the Real Estate Investor Association because that's what I do once a month, every single month. It's because I go out there and meet new people and get new policies. But I went with a different set of ears. I went out there and this individual came out and he's like, hey, I just found this deal 3 days ago. I've already sold it and I made $29,000. And I'm like, ha, like you son of a gun. Like I made 19 grand my first year in insurance and here you're making it in 3 days, 10 grand more than that. So I went up to him afterwards. I'm like, dude, I want to do this right this time. I tried to do insurance and I did it on my own. I didn't pay for a mentor. So I didn't find this like proven way. I just figured hard work, effort was going to make it work. It's not making it work, but I'm willing to work hard. And he's like, I know you are. And that fear, that scares me a little bit to teach you because I feel like you'd be my biggest competition if I taught you these strategies. And I was almost a little bugged. I was like, oh, like I want to turn into something good. And, but I was grateful. So I actually found a mentor that was out of Florida doing the exact same thing. And I started going through his mentorship and 39 days into it, I land my first deal for $24,000. And I like pinch myself. I'm like, no way. Like this guy that has no college education at all, like no real estate experience. I don't have a real estate license. All I did is got the right instruction. Yes, it cost me. I had to cut the check, but by cutting the check, it also took me to the destination I wanted to get there quicker. And it took me to that spot quicker. 39 days later, it was like game changing because now it went from faith to fact. It's no longer like, will this work for me? Could this work for me? Or is it too late? Like, are the good times gone? No, it just took place and it happened. And from there, it just started snowballing and taking place to where ultimately, fast forward just a couple years, 2017, we were completely financially free. We paid off our mortgage. We paid off everything and we had no debt to our name. And then we're still pushing forward and I still use the same principle. And I have people call me crazy. I'd always tell people I'm an investor, but Robert Kiyosaki, he calls me an idiot because I have no mortgages on even my rentals. I just buy my rentals free and clear. So I make great income and I don't need my rental income right now. I just want to stash that away for a big day for when I want to be done and all gone. I can just relax and retire on all the income that's coming in from that. And so that's just building up. And every year it builds up and I'm able to buy now other rentals with the money that's coming in from the rents. So it's just it's a great thing, but that's kind of a high level fast. I know that's slow part at the beginning, but now like to get to the quick part, it hasn't been long. I mean, it's only been a little over 5 years and real estate changed everything for me. It wasn't a lack of desire. I wasn't really passionate about insurance. I got super passionate about real estate, but it was also the vehicle that really increased my income and not do this like game of stacking BBs, selling home and auto insurance policies. It was like instantly I could increase my income and start going, and I've never looked back.
And there's no reason to. It's funny. I started in construction, but I got out. Construction, you got out too, but construction for me, man, it destroyed my body, and I was like, I can't do this for the rest of my life. I need to find something else that's better. And I just hate trading time for money.
That's right. You nailed it.
Effective for me. I did summer sales, sold pest control, and I used a lot of my construction experience there to make good money. But even then, it was just not what I wanted to be remembered as. It wasn't really. It's good, and I'll still sell you pest control. If you don't have pest control, you should go get pest control in your house. Everybody needs it. And it's not what I was so passionate about and what I wanted to have the legacy for. And I didn't so one thing I want to bring up, because not everybody shares this. It's a common in a lot of, I don't know if I would really say success books. I don't know. I don't know where it comes from, but I just hear it. I hear it in the circles. And that's all I could say is I hear it in the circles. I don't know where it came from, but like sacrifice your life today so that you can like live like no one else today so you can live like no one else later.
Yeah,
right?
Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey 101 right there.
This like belief system that the way to get ahead is to work harder or spend more time. And that I honestly believe that may have been true 20 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago. But in the world we live in today, you can live life in multiplication. And in fact, if you're not living your income in multiplication, you will be obsolete. I honestly believe that you will either be a corporate slave for the rest of your life because we all need them as business owners, right? And it sounds bad, but it's true, right? We have to have people who do stuff like that. And if you enjoy it, fantastic. But you're either going to be there for the rest of your life or you're going to be obsolete. Like if you haven't figured out how to transition into multiplication of income with less time, then it's not going to work. And just like you mentioned how your charity has to start, you have to learn how to manage money while you're poor. I think that the biggest currency and the only currency that is non-renewable is time. And if you don't learn how to manage your time, then it doesn't matter how much time you get if you suck at managing time. And that's one thing that I have people like you. I mean, I'm going to ask you more about the Robert Kiyosaki thinking you're an idiot thing. But I have people who think, Sam, you should be farther than you are. Like, why don't you just go work hard for 90 days? And I think, well, I could, but I don't want to build a habit or a belief system that if I just work harder, I can get more money. Because yes, I believe that that's true. I have no doubt in my mind that if I went and worked harder in 90 days, I'd be wealthier than I am today.
Yep.
But that's that can only go so far. So I'd rather specifically be looking for systems that I can either automate or make my time investment no more, but my income increase. Because the one thing that's most important to me, and this is the ultimate point I'm getting at here, is he was doing sales and he stopped doing sales in that regard. I mean, he still sells stuff. There's no way you're not selling stuff, but he stopped doing the time consuming thing because he was missing his family, and no amount of money is worth not being there for your family. And I'm that way as well. People are like, oh, you're complacent with your income. I'm like, I'm not complacent, man. I'm always thinking and trying to find the next person who can help me maximize my time and get more out of my hours.
Sure.
But I'm looking for people to help me get more out of my hours, not somebody who's going to tell me to put in more hours. Because anybody who tells me you got to put in more hours, I'm done listening to, because it's not where I want to go. I don't think it's not a solution to the actual problem that I'm facing.
That's right.
It's a short-term solution to an income potentially, but it's not a long-term solution to a lifestyle and a legacy. And so talk more about that. Like, what helped you make that transition in your mindset, or what gave you the courage to say, you know what, more time is not going to get me what I want. Obviously you had that deeply emotional experience of having nothing left, so there's that. But still, there's a lot of people who get that and they go back to mom and dad. They go back to something else. They don't go forward to something new. They go back to familiarity. So what do you feel like made it so you were comfortable going into forward instead of backward?
We're always either running towards pleasure or running away from pain. Like, my story is the one of running away from pain. Like, at the end of the day, I wanted to run away from pain. I never wanted to see my wife crying ever again. And for some of you, it's like, man, I'm doing this. It's not really pain, but I'd love to run closer to pleasure, like even more pleasure. And so whatever your story is, that's fantastic. Mine just happened to be I was running from pain. I came home and saw my wife crying. But going back to what Samuel said with the actual systems, the processes, what I'm able to do now is invest into those systems and processes. Think about McDonald's. McDonald's could have a burger flipper today that says, I'm done. Like, this doesn't work for me anymore. And they could leave, and McDonald's would not fret, not even 2 seconds, because they have 100 applicants sitting in a file that they can call up and say, hey, we need you to come in and start tomorrow, but I need you to come in and plug into the system. The manager wouldn't take his time and say, hey, here's what you're going to do. You're going to walk back here. You're going to put on an apron. You're going to flip the burger like this, and you're going to pull the next patty out of this drawer and put it down here. He wouldn't do that. they have a process, they have a system in place, they have videos that train them exactly how to do that. So someone comes in, plugs into the system, watches the videos, watches whatever it is, goes the next day, and they're already a perfectionist at making this burger at McDonald's. Same exact thing. If it's not written down, it doesn't exist. Meaning, I don't want my time that when I bring on team, so many times we hear people, I want to scale, I want to bring on a team. I love the ambition, but most people bring on the team before they bring on the software. They bring on the team before they bring on the process, before they bring on the system. You've got to put those systems, those processes in place so that those people that you do bring on can win and succeed at a high level. And that's what we're able to do here is now with this business, we'll do 7 figures every single year. And I may work 3 to 5 hours a week on that business period at the end because it's so process driven. It's so team driven where I come in, I have my weekly meetings. I have meetings with my team. I'll go out and do content. I'll check on things, but 3 to 5 hours, that's it. That's all I put into it because I invested the time and energy into the system and process as well. So I have to give kudos to you for bringing that up because it's so crucial that I don't want to keep trading time for money. I want to make sure that there's a way to replace me. There's a way to have brighter minds than me that can come in and also make it grow. So I could only do so much on my own, and wearing all the hats is just another high-paying job. At the end of the day, so many times we get into entrepreneurship and we think, oh my goodness, I went from making 50 grand, now I make 100 grand. This is absolutely amazing. But instead of working a 9 to 5, now you're working a 9 to 9. But it's like, but I own this and I make more money. And it's like, all you did is just take on a higher paying job. That's all you did. It's not a business. A business is one that runs with or without you. All you did is take on a higher paying job, one that you have to trade time for money.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this, so this is on the back of, I've got 1 week left, but we did a competition for my company. And it means that for the last two weeks, I've been doing 7 to 9 appointments a day with people, which normally I do 2 or 3. But I've been doing more for my team. And it is like, I don't like it. I hate leaving. Today I left before my kids woke up. I'll get home at like 6 o'clock. They'll be awake for an hour and then I put them to bed. It's just like that life is not for me. And it's interesting because my wife has gotten used to me being home more, which is how I like it. I like her being home. But then when I work more, she's like, hey, where are you at, man? I'm like, I'm not here because I got to do this other thing. But it causes some serious conversation. Like, hey, is this the new normal? I'm like, no, this is not the new normal. I promise you, this can't be my new normal. But sometimes, what's funny is the reason I bring this up and we're spending so much time here is because I think it's so applicable in all areas of your life. These systems that we have in place, it's the same with parenting. It's the same with religion. It's like when you become a member of any religion, they plug you into a system. Now, again, to have this conversation, we've got to remove a certain level of spirituality out of this. And be okay with that. Like I'm a deeply spiritual person. I believe Cody is as well. But when you start working in business, you also start to recognize the systems in place everywhere in life. And they're not a bad thing. Like to talk about a religion having a system and a regiment and rituals for how they operate, how they identify each other. Like it's not a bad thing. In fact, if you aren't treating your business like a religion in that respect, you're probably going to lose people because they don't feel like they're part of anything of real value. They're just there, right? And so you have to create these cultures, and religion is one of the best at creating culture. So study it and make it part of your life. But these things we have to build into these systems into every aspect of our lives. And that's been my experience is just how can we create these systems in a way that we are getting what we actually want. And for me, that starts with, what do you actually want? See, for most people, I know some very successful people and talk to both their husband and their wife. The husband works a lot. The wife, when she heard how much time I spent at home, she's like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'd want to see my husband that much, you know? So in their relationship, that wouldn't work. If he chose to sit at home as much as I sit at home and spend time with my family, neither of them would be happy. And so it's so in that regard, it's like, okay, then if there's not a one size fits all, it's identifying what do you feel like is most important? What are you striving for? And what I get from Cody is your goal and your striving is your family's your priority. And you're creating this lifestyle so you can be with your family, not because you care about the lifestyle, not because
That's
you care
right.
about the prestige or whatever else. And it's neither good or bad if your family's your top priority. It just is. And if it is, then act like it. If it's not, stop lying to yourself and recognize that something else is a higher priority. For me, a higher priority for me, like as far as values, is candor, integrity, and gratitude. Family's not on my top three. Now that's, some people are like, well, that's wrong. Your family should be the most important, or God should be the most important. I'm like, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but you got to be honest with yourself at where you're at in that point in life. And those can change at any point in time. But if you don't start off being honest with yourself, you lost.
That's
you
right.
lost from there. So how did you decide that your family was more important than what you were doing for work or what people thought about you? Or like, because there's always going to be the people who think you're crazy. And I'm sure you've had plenty of those people who are like, oh, he's in this real estate gimmick. He's scamming people. It happens. Anybody who has ever got success happens. So how did you decide, you know what, my values are more important than what you think about me?
Yeah. Honest truth, I've always been one that's been, me and my wife have such a solid relationship, and we've always made family time like huge in our lives. And so it wasn't hard for me to just, I wouldn't say we don't have friends. We have friends. We have great friends, but my life doesn't revolve around like every Friday, like what couple are we hanging out with? What other family are we hanging out with? I'm totally fine if it's just me, my wife, and my kids, like completely satisfied. And so we've never been the ones that really cared to like either like when we had no money and like people like, hey, come out here. We didn't want to keep up with the Joneses. If we didn't have the money, we didn't go out to dinner with them. We just simply said, sorry, this week doesn't work. Tonight doesn't work. We already ate. Whether we did or not, we couldn't afford it. So we didn't want to keep up with the Joneses. So we didn't really care what people thought of us anyways, because we knew we were on this journey for our family. And going back to this destination that you're talking about, most people don't know their destination. And so if you don't know your destination, how will you begin to know the road or the map that gets you there? We have that classic, it was probably one of the goofiest Disney movies that we ever watched probably growing up, was Alice in Wonderland. She comes to a fork in the road and she says, which path should I take? The Cheshire Cat says, I don't know. Depends on where you want to go. And she's like, it doesn't matter where I go. And he's like, then it doesn't matter which path you take. The thing is, we laugh at that like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Well, I would say well over 90% of individuals out there, even including entrepreneurs, are much like Alice in Wonderland. They come to this fork in the road and they don't even know which path to take because they don't know their destination. If you were going to on a trip and you said, sweetheart, kids, get in the car. We're going on a trip. And like, well, where are we going? I don't know. Wherever the car goes. How many people are going to do that? Maybe there's some out there that are adventurous and they want to do that. Me? No. My wife, she'd be like, My kids would be like, well, where are we going? Like, no, I'd rather stay here and do this. If that's the case, you have to map where we're going. So if I said, hey, we're going to Disneyland, now we got to map it out. Now we know, okay, if we're going to drive, we can go this long way or we can go this short way. So now you start to hear and see like, oh my gosh, this way we could go, but it's going to take 6 hours longer, or we could shed 6 hours by going this way. So not only are you seeing the path to get you there, you're also seeing which path takes you there quicker. And you have to map that out. I want to be able to have this many hours with my wife and my kids every single week. So you start mapping it out. Okay, what's going to do it so that when you're faced with a fork in the road, you can basically say, okay, does this path allow me to have more time with my wife and kids? Or does this path? Which path is going to take away from me accomplishing what I really want to accomplish? And hold true, like you said, like be honest with yourself and hold true. If you want a great way of saying it, like if you say God is number one in your life or my family's number one in my life, pull up your calendar last week and show me that family was number one priority, or show me God was number one priority. Your calendar better match it. For many people, they'll say it, but they're at a 9 to 5. And it's like, but my work took precedence. So it is being that honest. But that's what I had to do. I had to put together, me and my wife would sit down. I sat down with my kids, and there was a short-term sacrifice. I don't want to preach that there wasn't. I think so many times now I'll have like people come up like, oh my gosh, how did you do this so quick? And I'm like, this, like what you think is an overnight success has been like 10 years. Like it's been rough. It's been tough. It's been hard. Like it's not an overnight success. And there was a lot of sacrifices. We sold our Honda Accord that we had that was paid off. We sold that for like 10 to 15,000 in that range. I can't even remember the exact number. And I had a F-150 we sold for like just shy of 10 grand. We owned those free and clear. And that's how we started our entrepreneurship journey. And we bought, in lieu of those, a $3,500 forest green minivan that was in kilometers because it came from Canada. And I drove a $1,000 Honda Civic where the bumper was held on with baling wire. So during that time, people like, I know there was snickering. I know there's like, what are they doing? What are they driving? Like they just got rid of those cars and got those. I even had some family members like, what are you doing? That doesn't even look like a safe car. But guess what? Now, fast forward 10 years from the moment we downsized to do that, to live within our means and sacrifice to make this work. Fast forward 10 years, no one but me and my wife even remember that forest green van. No one remembers that $1,000 Honda Civic but us. Why? Because it meant so much to us. But the other people, they don't even remember. They're like, I don't remember that car for whatever reason. But during the moment, you feel like every eye is looking at you like, you guys are idiots. What are you doing driving that crap? It looks like a forest ranger. Like it's awful. But don't let that stop you, because you'll realize those short little sacrifices, those small sacrifices and some big sacrifices, no one's going to remember them, but you are, because that's going to be the little things that brought to pass this great result.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's really a big indication of how concerned are you about what somebody else thinks about you.
Yeah.
And I don't know, part of it is how much do you care about what other people think? For me, I like having a nice car just because I like having a nice car. I grew up on really crappy cars, and I don't like driving crappy cars for me. And I don't care what somebody else says. It's like, I do what I want to do because I want to do it. And if you think it's a good or bad decision, I don't really care.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a good point to get to. Another thing that I wanted to highlight and have you speak on is, you mentioned that poverty's like, you never allowed yourself to claim poverty, even though you were potentially destitute. Maybe you potentially needed family help or needed government help or church help, whatever it is. Like, you can be in those positions and never be in poverty. And because poverty, in my opinion, it is a mindset. And due to it being a mindset, and this is, not everybody loves this definition, but I don't care. I think it's a mental illness. Like, poverty is a mental illness. You have gotten to a point mentally that you do not have confidence in yourself or your ability to become anything like that. In my mind, it's a mental illness. But I'm curious, how would you define, like, whether somebody's in poverty or not in poverty, and if they are in poverty, what's the process of getting out? What does somebody who's not in poverty think about when they are poor? When they're financially poor, how are they behaving to stay out of poverty?
Man, I can only share from my own story, because I don't know. I know there's people that are in worse positions than I was in. And so I want to be delicate and not trample too hard on that. But I'll tell you from my own story. Here's what it was. It was, we were grateful for the little things, and there wasn't a ton. Like, we had no money, so we had to think really hard of some of the things that we were grateful for. Gratitude, I believe, call it from a religious perspective. So with God, whether it's a creator, whether that's a universe, whether that's karma, when you have a positive mindset and you can show forth the gratitude with the things that you had, even though they may be few right now, you'll realize that if you can keep your focus on that and work on that, that's how it just starts to expand into other things that you can be grateful for. So during this time, for example, we had no money. We couldn't go on date night because we couldn't afford date night. If we were lucky, we would go get an ice cream cone at Arctic Circle. Like, that was like our, like, yeah, we did good this week. We had 75 cents left over so we could have an ice cream cone. We didn't drive anywhere. Me and my wife would just go hold hands, and we would go walk right from our house right to the park and go walk around the park. And I will tell you, those were some of the most memorable times of me and my wife's relationship. Those were the times that made us who we are today. Because of those incredible conversations that took place, that's why our relationship continues today to be awesome. That's why it continues to be solid. That's why money doesn't change people. Everyone has these little misconceptions that, once you have money, it just changes you. And it could change some people, and it could change them for the worse. I think money amplifies what you really are. And that's my honest opinion. So If you're a greedy individual, money's going to amplify that. If you are, for a lack of word, like a prick, it's going to get amplified when you make more money. If you are generous though, money amplifies that. Think of the good you can do. If you're willing to give now and all of a sudden you're going to be able to make more money, look how many more lives you're able to bless. Look how many more individuals you're able to help. And so when I say, when it comes down to poverty, I would commit to being a good steward of the money that you already have in. We didn't have much, but commit to being a good steward. We did not have, and I always tell people, I have students go through my course all the time. I don't have money for the marketing to go out there so I can have these conversations with people so I can get their home at a discount. Okay, well, let's break this down. Do you have like DirecTV? Do you have satellite? Do you have Comcast? Oh yeah, we have DirecTV. What's the package? Well, it's like $170. It's got like the golf channel. It's got NBA package. It's got this. And I'm like, you don't want it bad enough. You're willing to sit at home and have DirecTV with the highest package, and you won't cut that $175 and put that $175 towards this. This is what we did. We were good stewards. And so I can tell you this, be a good steward of what you have. If that means you have to sell the TV, if that means you have to temporarily sell things, if that means temporarily you got to get rid of the cool package that is awesome for like watching movies, and you got to get rid of Hulu and Disney Plus and Netflix. Guys, these are little things that add up so that you can actually change your future. But most people won't get rid of that. They won't sacrifice that stuff. You've got to be a good steward of the money you already have coming in. You've got to be grateful for the money and show that gratitude by being able to use the most of it. We didn't want to rely on anyone. We didn't. But we also had a belief that if we would be a good steward of the little money we had, that it would start coming back tenfold. And it did. We had very little money. We'd take that money at Christmas. We'd save up and we'd look in there and there was a couple $100 in there, and we'd still help out families that were in worse position than we were. We found ways to do with the little we had, but every time we did, it came back tenfold, and there was just more to give. There was more to return back to other people's, to bless other people's lives. So I would say live within a budget. I know that's tough. I know that's hard. I get it. We sacrificed a ton though. I can't tell you that enough. It wasn't like we were out there keeping up with the Joneses. No, now it's the point where I just wait for the Joneses to foreclose on their home and I'll be the one that purchases it. Like, I don't keep up with them. I just don't, I won't, I refuse to do it. Sacrifice today. And I truly believe those things will bring forth blessings that you just won't be able to count. You've got to live within a budget. You've got to be a good steward of the money you already have so that you can be entrusted and opened up different ways of seeing how you can make these opportunities grow into more income.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think gratitude for me is what saved my life and helped me become just a positive person and see the life that I have and just be grateful for the way it is. So I think gratitude is the number one, probably the number one thing that keeps me just going. I was talking to a client who's struggling with her money belief, and I had gone through like last month and a half, hadn't really done any business, which is fine. I know what I do, and I work every day and go to work. And then just in the last week, I've done a lot, and it looks like this roller coaster. But once you understand how money works and that doesn't affect you, the roller coaster of when money's coming in doesn't affect you because you've managed your money enough so that you have the same amount every month and you can live on a spending plan. I call it a spending plan because budgets have negative connotations to some people, but it doesn't matter. It's the same thing, right? We're saying this is what we're going to spend. Yeah. You know? That's interesting. I'm curious when you said, and I'm sure this was in jest, but I'm curious. I think there's a reason why you said it still. So when you said Robert Kiyosaki kind of thinks you're an idiot for owning all your properties and having no debt on them. Why is that? What are the two forms of thoughts on that? I know they're there. I want people to understand, why would somebody choose to pay off all their, carry no debt on it, and why would somebody choose to leverage to expend? So what's the difference in why?
Everyone looks at ROI. That's what they look at. They're like, what's your return on investment? What's your return on your money? And so they're saying, like, Robert Kiyosaki's like, you could get a house for 10%, 20% down where you're only taking a fraction of your money and it's bringing in 10% or 15%. But when you pay off a full entire home and now you're making only $1,800 on locking up $160,000 and you're only making $1,500 a month back, it depreciates how much money you're making. Like your ROI, your return on your money goes down to where it's like 5%, 4%, 3%, 6%, right? And so people are like, why would you do that when you could just put little money down? And more importantly, you could buy other assets too with this 160 grand. You could put 20 grand on this house, 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 and now have multiple assets working for you. Totally get it. First, that's what I love about real estate. To each their own. There's no right or wrong way. You've got to find out what's your strategy and what lets you sleep at night. And mine is the free and clear strategy. Like I said, Robert Kiyosaki, his the leverage strategy. Leverage, leverage, leverage. You leverage, and he calls it good debt and bad debt. I believe debt, I call this crazy. This is where I get like, I learned it this way from another mentor. He's all, Cody, it's like good sin or bad sin. He's like, they're all sin, right? Now that's to the extreme side, but that's where my comfort zone is. At the end of the day, I make great income coaching. I make great income wholesaling real estate. This is just stuff that I'm just stacking up. I have well over 10 doors now that are all free and clear. I don't ever have to worry about it. Like I've gone to Real Estate Investor Association meetings where people stand up and they're like, hey, I'm so-and-so. I used to have 50 rentals, but in '08, I lost them all. So I'm right here starting all over again. And I've gone and spoke to many across this nation, and I've heard the story over and over again. I go up to him afterwards. I say, why was it? Why did you lose them all? He's like, I was leveraged every single time. Mm-hmm. I've never heard this story, Samuel. I've never heard this in my whole entire life. I've never heard the guy that says, hey, I'm so-and-so. I owned 15 homes free and clear. '08 hit, and I lost every single one of them. I've never heard that story yet. It just hasn't existed. And that's the route I choose. If I was needing that income and it's like, let's have multiple assets work at the same time and let's make $300 cash flow. I don't like that strategy though either. People are like, they're fine with $300 cash flow. I'm not, because one tenant can trash more than times that by 12. That's $3,600. I can promise you a tenant can trash in one home more than $3,600 in 1 year, or when a roof goes bad. But I have $1,800 a month coming in on my average on my rental. That stockpiles really quick, where if there is little fixes that need to be done, I've got them. If a roof needs to be repaired, I've got it. And so this is just a strategy I take. But those are the two methods. You can leverage or go free and clear. I go free and clear.
Yeah. And I think a big highlight of this whole conversation is neither one is right or wrong. And
that's right.
Nothing we're even talking about the way we believe, how we choose to operate our lives. It's not right or wrong, right? You don't have to do what Cody's doing. You don't have to do what I do. What I do think is important is decide what you want to do and stick to it. That's what's important, is decide to have a strategy. And that's why we're trying to highlight this. I'm curious, just because I work with other real estate agents, and they have used cash value life insurance policies for like cash flow banking. So you've probably heard of Garrett Gunderson.
Yeah.
And Renatus does this a lot. There's a few companies and a few people, and I love the strategy for the right person. It works well. For somebody who chooses out, it's fine. I'm curious, have you ever done it, and what, like, from your perspective, do you see benefit in it or not benefit, and why?
I don't do it. I just usually, I always tell everyone, like, you just nailed it, like hit the nail on the head. And that is, pick one strategy, stick to it. And so it's just never been a strategy of mine. Could it work? It may work. Have I ever tried it? I've even looked into it. Do I know it exists? Yes. I don't do it. My whole thing was, I didn't have money. I wasn't a realtor, and I didn't have experience. And I found out almost like the gateway drug to real estate was wholesaling, is just be a deal finder. What you do have is some time. What you do have is some drive. What you do have is you can go out and find some instruction. Now there's so much free content on YouTube University that you can go do all this all day long. But what you do is you go out there and become a deal finder. That's what I did. I had very little money. I couldn't even think of buying a rental. I couldn't even think of fixing and flipping a home because I didn't have money for that. But what I could do is go locate the deals, and then just simply, once I put them under contract at a discount with the homeowner, because I'm working directly with them. I'm not finding retail deals on the MLS. I'm working directly with the homeowner. I was good at that. I was good at putting marketing together that found distressed properties or distressed situations where I could come in and then help solve their problems. I just wanted to be laser focused like a sniper. Who are you more afraid of? A duck hunter shooting a shotgun that shoots BBs everywhere, or a sniper? I'm more afraid of the sniper that shoots one bullet but is deadly every time. Take your approach in life, in business, like that. There's a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller. Phenomenal book. One thing. Focus on one thing and watch what happens. So I just focused on the wholesaling aspect, meaning be a deal finder. Go out there and find deeply discounted properties that you can then sell off to cash buyers. And in many states, without ever even having to close on the property. I didn't have money, so I didn't close on the property. I just put it under contract, and then I sold the contract to these cash buyers. That it's almost like the Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. You go find a deeply discounted property, and all of a sudden people come out of the woodworks like, hey, I want it. I need my next fix and flip. And they're willing to pay you for that contract, for that opportunity to close on that deal that you put under contract at a discount. That's what I did. And I did it over and over and over and over and over again until I had money in the bank. And then I cherry picked my best deals and kept them for long-term buy and holds. And I just kept working, build up the money, cherry pick my best deal and keep it for a long-term buy and hold. And then I'd work. And now it's to the point where my rentals are actually buying me a rental every year.
And are your again, this is like personal questions, but I think it's important to understand where money comes from. So is your primary source of income currently, is it more through the coaching, or are you still doing, are you doing coaching just because more people wanted to know what you're doing and you're still doing the wholesaling?
Yeah, I do both. So wholesaling, we'll do 7 figures this year in Utah. We'll do 7 figures also in Dallas, Fort Worth that we just opened a little over a year ago. So now I have 2 operations. Since then, we've franchised. So now we have about 11 franchisees throughout the nation, and we have about 3 more coming on within the next few weeks. And so that's now another channel. Coaching, I love it. I love coaching, because I know there's more Cody Hofhines out there that are coming home early from work to a stressed out family saying, how are we going to put food on the table? How are we going to make our next mortgage payment? I know I'm not the only one out there. I know there's many out there. Stats say as much as 67, which I think is low. 67% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck and have less than $800 to hold them over to their next paycheck. I think the stat's actually worse than that. But let's say it's that. That gives me of 100 people that I can go contact with, 67 people that I can say, hey guys, I've got a unique little strategy that, if it makes sense to you, could help you in this spot, can help you get from where you're at now to a different location, to a different spot in life, a better spot in life, to become a better person, to have better income, ultimately to make money wholesaling real estate so you can quit your day job. My goal is, how do I help enough Americans leave corporate America and work for themselves, go to the casino of life and go all in on you? Because I want you to accomplish your goals. And if you don't know what your goals are, someone else will use you to accomplish theirs. So you might as well go accomplish your own goals. There's no need for you to have your goals, or I should say someone using you to accomplish their goals. Find out what your goals are and figure out the strategy that's going to help you accomplish them.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that message, we need to find a better way of getting it into people's heads. I don't know, because I'm all on board. I love that. And I do, because of coronavirus, I think it's way worse than 67% at this point. Like it's a pretty dire situation. It's very fascinating, because that's what I do, is I see that every day. And I have the same philosophy of, pick one thing that you feel like you can do and you're passionate about, and do that thing. For me, I like helping people understand how money works, and he likes helping people get money, which is awesome for real estate. And if there's not one side or one thing that's right or wrong about it. I'm curious, if somebody is listening to this and they want to, they'd like to be on, be part of your coaching or just have a conversation with you, I don't know, how would they get in contact with you?
Yeah, they can learn more. If you went over to just the website, it's codyhofhine.com, Cody, HOFHINE.com, or I'm sure it'll be in the show notes. You can click on that. But ultimately, that's a great place you can already begin. That helps you get kind of indoctrinated, where you can kind of learn. There's a lot of free content out there. The course itself is called Real Estate Freedom Formula. So you can find that on Facebook, my private Facebook group, and join that. Just fill out a short little 3-question and join that group, where all wholesalers are in there, investors are in there, talking each and every day about their wins and their losses. So that's free. You can go over there to the Real Estate Freedom Formula Facebook group. as well as our YouTube channel, and that is Real Estate Freedom Formula. Now that we just barely started up, so this one's going to be something I'm going to throw a lot of fuel at over the next year to really put some incredible content out there, so people can really start to learn and get free content put in front of them, so that whether you did the coaching aspect or not, you're going to get fed with some free content. And then if you want to move forward and do that, you have that option just through the website.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's important to understand that people who are successful and they're successful doing whatever they want to do. And again, this is not to throw shade at coaches. I want to be clear that I'm not throwing shade at coaches, but there's something to be said with people who are successful doing what they're teaching, and then they teach it because they like helping other people. He doesn't need you to buy his course. You will be more successful if you buy his course because you'll be invested and you'll want to actually do it a little bit more. But he doesn't need your money. He's going to be fine with or without you. I think those are the best coaches because they aren't reliant on you doing something, you know?
That's right.
They don't have to have you be whatever. If you want to be successful, they can give you the tools and you can either use them or not. And that's on you. Your success is not going to affect his life and his family's living at all.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important aspect there. The other thing is you had mentioned at the beginning you have a podcast. What's your podcast?
The podcast. So what we ended up doing is we just StreamYard it live. So the podcast that I'm still a host on that does about 10,000 downloads a day is the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. So Wholesaling INC. I'm the host on that. And that one's our baby. So what I do now in lieu of that one is I shouldn't say in lieu. In addition to that podcast, I also just go live within that Facebook group, and it goes live on the YouTube channel. And I'll interview basically students that are going through the program and let them be the hero, not me. Share how they just recently did a deal and what was the process, what did it look like, what marketing channel they use, and we kind of just break down the whole process step by step. So you can really get some action items out of it and go out there and start getting out of your own way and taking some action.
Yeah, love that. So, if you're interested at all, even if you just want to find out more about what exactly wholesaling is, because it's worth going and finding out what it is for sure, go ahead and look at his podcast, go to his Facebook, YouTube, and learn about it. It may be something for you, even if you're like, I don't want to do it full time. But that's what everybody says until it in 1 month out cash flows is their annual income. Then they're like, well, maybe I should think about this.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's awesome. This next section is called Legacy on Rapid Fire.
Okay.
5 questions, super fast. You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. Legacy on Rapid Fire. First question. What do you believe is holding you back from reaching the next level of your legacy today?
What is holding me back from reaching my next level of legacy? Here's the thing, guys. I'm pretty crazy. I'm always thinking of what's the next level. So our big baby was the launch and release of this franchise, and we're doing it. And it takes a lot of, it takes income because you have to go through a year of running this through attorneys and everything. So I'm always open to figuring out how to do it. Here's where the trick is. How do you do it without giving up more of your time by putting time back into it and releasing back from the time spent with family or spent making memories, creating memories with your loved ones? So that's the trick, is how do I do it, but also not have to take from the commodity of hanging out with the family? That's the trick. And I say that's the one I always have to sit there and balance and make sure it's in check, because that can get out of whack really, really quick. As entrepreneurs, as you start to succeed, you'll see that opportunity is thrown at you all the time. You got to be willing to say no to more and yes to less.
Yeah, I love that phrase. Awesome. What do you think the hardest thing you've ever accomplished has been?
Hardest thing I've ever accomplished? Sheesh. I think there's some yet to come. I think every year it just progresses how hard it is. So the most recent one was again, going back to, I know I just said the franchise, but that was a hard accomplishment. But before that, it was starting this wholesaling business. Before that, it was, or I should say the coaching business. Before that, it was the wholesaling business. Before that, it was insurance. But every one of them were unique challenges that I need to face to help me grow, because I know there's still yet another bigger challenge coming my way. So I'd say right now, it would be the franchise and ever growing this coaching program and platform to help more people. But I know there's something bigger coming.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what do you think your greatest success is at this point in your life?
My definition of success has always been where my family sees me more than my team or employees see me. And so that has been my greatest point of success. It wasn't a money. It wasn't like when I have X amount of dollars in the bank or X amount of rentals. It was when I can physically look at my calendar and say, hey, my wife and kids saw me more than my team or my employees did. And sleeping hours don't count. I'm talking awake hours. And I've been able to accomplish that.
That's incredible. That is something that is a goal of mine, but it has not come to pass yet, and that's okay. I'm honest about myself, and I know where I'm at, so that's good. What's a secret you believe contributes most to your success?
Commit to massive imperfect action. The people that are willing to take imperfect action are miles ahead of the people trying to build a perfect plan and taking no action at all. Know that you're going to make mistakes and know that that's part of the process. You will not lose unless you quit. You're either going to win or you're going to learn. And that's crucial. You have to understand that's part of the game. Go out there and make as many mistakes as possible. Take massive imperfect action. Don't build a perfect plan. They do not exist. And don't get stuck at YouTube freaking university and just keep watching video after video. Get out of your own way and go take imperfect action.
Love that. What's a book that you would recommend to the Fuel Your Legacy audience?
I love The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Phenomenal book. It just talks about doing the small and simple things that no one else is willing to do. When asked, what are these big things that you're doing that makes your business so much better than mine? It's not any big thing. It's the small and simple things consistently done that no one else is willing to do for years. And then it starts to compound and then it just grows. A lot of people don't wait long enough, don't work it hard enough. I tell everyone to get into business, on any business, you got to grind for 6 months before you start to really see the fruits, the labors, and you start to see your pipeline close. And they give up usually after 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And like, man, you were right there. You were right there. You just had to go another 90 days and you would have saw the fruits of all this momentum that you had in place, even though it felt like it was nothing.
Yeah, so true. So true. Got to stick to it. So so this is the last question. My favorite question of the show. And this is, what legacy are you building? So we're going to pretend that you've died and that you had the opportunity to come back and see your great, 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 great grandchildren sitting around a table discussing your life and your legacy, and not just what it meant to them, but what it meant to the world. So what do you want your family to be saying about you 6 generations from now?
I want to be the one that was known for outserving anyone else that they ever knew, and realizing that your income is directly proportionate to the level of service or the level of value you bring to the world. And so I would want them to know that, man, here was an individual that outserved anyone. He was out there serving people, and the byproduct was he got paid well for it because he served and brought a lot of value. But ultimately, generational wealth. That's something I think is pretty unique right now. Is I have a 12-year-old that, in fact, I'll tell you 2 stories. The 10-year-old, I'll just tell you one. Keep it quick. 10-year-old does this. She's at church one day, and her teacher says, "Hey kids, if I gave you all $1,000, what would you do?" And some of the kids gave some awesome answers, and it came to my daughter. And Kenley, what would you do? And some of the kids were like, "Oh, I save it up so we can go on a mission." And part of our church beliefs is like you can go out and serve like a year and a half or 2 years, depending if you're a girl or a boy, to go serve and preach the gospel. And so some of them are like, "Oh, I'd save it up for my mission." My daughter's like, "I would buy a rental and have my rental pay for my mission." And I'm like, "Yeah, baby, good answer. I love this." So that's what I love. I love that my kids are involved. My son mows lawns right now. He's 12 years old, and he now picked up like his 8th lawn that he mows every week. This guy makes like over $200 a week. I didn't make that at 12 years old, but he's already thinking like an entrepreneur. He's already thinking that he wants to work for himself. He's already thinking about when he goes to college or goes on a mission that he can sell this business. Like he's already thinking bright that I didn't have. That's what I love that I'm leaving behind. My parents did a great job. And my point is, how do I add even more to what my parents taught me and make sure that my kids are better than me? Not the same as me, better than me. And gosh, at 12 years old to already be mowing that many lawns and thinking about selling a business at some point, I'm just like, good job, man. I love it.
Yeah, that's cool. Hey, thank you so much for your time and sharing this with the Fuel Your Legacy audience. So many amazing things. I'm excited to go back and re-listen to it so I can actually learn. more of these things because my notes are great, but I know there's more that I missed that I got to re-listen to. So, and that goes for anybody. If you guys aren't re-listening to the shows, for me, I generally will, and people will think, why do you listen to your own thing? And for a long time, it was uncomfortable because I had to hear my own self talk, which it's a whole interesting thing if you ever record yourself a lot. But there's so much good things. Most podcasts, short of like political podcasts, those I only listen to once most of the time. But most podcasts, if I'm going to listen to it, I'm going to listen to each episode once or twice, sometimes 3 times, because I really want to learn it. Why spend the time initially doing it if you didn't actually want to actually internalize it and learn it? And also be okay with ending something early. There's a lot of podcasts that I get like 2/3 of the way through. I'm like, this isn't worth my time anymore. And I just turn it off, right? And books too. Books, same thing happens. I'll get 2/3 or 1/3 of the way into a book. I'm like, I don't want to listen to this anymore. Don't feel like you have to finish something so much that you waste time. It's not worth it. So anyways, love it. Thank you so much. And we will catch you guys next time on Fuel Your Legacy. Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me. And if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.